Good morning, and welcome to First Parish in Brookline. My name is Steve Peterson Davis, and I'm your worship associate today. We are a welcoming Unitarian Universalist congregation, open and affirming to all people, whoever you are, whatever your gifts or abilities may be, however you identify your gender or sexual orientation, wherever your life and faith journey have taken you, you are welcome here. We have a unique announcement today. Over the past few days, federal health officials have advised hospitals, schools, and churches and other public facilities to begin making preparations for the anticipated spread of the coronavirus in the United States. We want to reassure you today that your minister and staff are paying close attention to this emerging situation. We will continue to consider an increased community health protection steps, even as circumstances change. Just as in the flu and cold season, we can best protect ourselves and one another by paying close attention to careful hygienic practices, especially wash your hands fully and frequently. Keep your hands off your face, particularly your mouth, nose, and eyes. Disinfect your cell phone and the surfaces in your home and workplace regularly. Don't go to work, school, church, or any public gathering if you are feeling sick. Because the coronavirus, like the flu, is spread from close person-to-person contact and contaminated surfaces and objects, we're taking extra care to make sure our facilities are as safe as possible, including making hand sanitizer freely available in the sanctuary, at coffee hour, and around the church building. For now, we will discontinue our greeting with a handshake and encourage you to do the same. Feel free to greet others by pressing your palms together, holding your hands over your heart, bumping elbows, giving a friendly nod. Please know that we will do everything we can to keep you safe and informed in the days ahead. Take good care of yourselves and one another as we hold those who are directly affected in this crisis in our thoughts and prayers. Keep calm and wash your hands. You'll see these notices around the church building to remind you. It's kind of a lighthearted message, but it has a serious meaning. Today, you'll see several bottles of sanitizer and things like that around the church. Okay. After the service, please join us for coffee hour through this door to Lion Chapel. If you pick up a striped mug, this will show everyone that you have a particular interest in sharing conversation with others today. Please, during coffee hour, welcome Ashley Segovia, our new nursery caregiver. Welcome to all.
Good morning. Our call to worship this morning is the poem Let Nothing Lie Dormant by David Dominguez. At the farmer's market in Rosarito, Mexico, a man touched my arm. He stood on a stool at a wooden table, and in the center, a blue pitcher of water beaded under the sun. Hunkered over his lap, he worked with a gouge on a block of walnut. And he blew at the dust, and the dust swirled in the breeze. Done stripping the sapwood vulnerable to rot, the man held the heart of the wood, a purple wood, hard against the chisel's cutting edge. He looked up from his work, and his gray eyes told me I must listen. This wood must be strong, or the heart cracks before the real work is done. See this? He asked softly, and he lifted a mallet carved from a branch of apple. Strong wood, he said. It wanted to be more than a tree. He rubbed fresh walnut dust between his palms. We drank glasses of ice water, talked about life in general, and he used the pitcher, billowed and wet like the sail of a boat, to cool his neck. Later, through the soft meat of an avocado, I felt the pit longing to be free. Now please come into our place of worship and let us worship together. Our opening hymn is In the Silence by our own Keith Kirkhoff. Please rise as you are willing and able and join in singing. Keith maybe is going to tell us something.
We've sung this in this congregation a few times, and if it's new to you, the choir is going to sing through it first. And as you start to learn it, you're welcome to join us.
If you have children and you ever wonder if they're singing every word, the worship associate is a good proximity to know. Okay, I would like at this time to invite Amy Stoffelmeyer and Prilla Brackett, members of the Thursday Meditation Group, to come forward to light the chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith the world over. And as they light the chalice, please join me in unison, affirmation printed in your order of service, first in English and then in Spanish. We give ourselves one unto another, covenanting to walk together as a congregation, promising faithfully to watch over one another and to delight for love to abide in our midst. Nos entregamos y nos comprometemos a caminar juntos como congregación, prometiendo con mucha fe, mutuamente, el demostrarnos el amor que permaneció en nosotros. Each week we also light 2 candles of peace and hope, each candle representing a different place on earth that we want to lift up and remember this morning as a sacred encounter with the world. After each of the candles are lit, we will speak the words of peace in English, Arabic, and Hebrew. Peace, salam, shalom. Our candle of peace is lit this morning for the United States and Afghanistan, who have signed an agreement aimed at paving the way towards peace in Afghanistan after more than 18 years of conflict. The U.S. and its NATO allies have agreed to withdraw all of their troops from the country within 14 months if the militants uphold the deal. May peace prevail in Afghanistan and throughout that region. Peace, salam, shalom. Our candle of hope is lit for countries worldwide which have experienced the outbreak of the coronavirus, COVID-19, with over 83,000 cases confirmed in more than 50 countries. While about 36,000 of those people have recovered, fast-growing outbreaks in South Korea, Italy, Iran, along with the first case confirmed in Nigeria, show that the battle to contain this virus is still in its early stages. May we hold in our hearts all of those who are suffering and afraid, and may the spread of this virus be swiftly contained. Peace, salam, shalom.
Now I'd like to invite the children to come forward and join me for Time for All Ages. Please come and sit with me right up here. Come, if you want. Thank you for coming all the way up here. It's nice to have company. Come close, everybody. Yeah, grab a pillow if you want, but come close. I like to see everybody. Good morning, everybody. How are you doing on this very cold day? You staying warm? Yes? Good. So, how many of you ever spend time looking at some kind of a screen? A tablet like this? You can just raise your hand. Yeah, let's see the grown-ups raise their hands too. Yeah, yeah. How about a phone, computer, television? We actually spend a lot of time looking at screens. I think some of us, especially the adults, have phones that actually tell us how many hours we spent last week looking on our screens. And when I look at that number, it's a little shocking sometimes. So that's something that we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about how we can put down those screens and pay attention to other things in the world. Does that seem like a good idea? It's probably something that you've heard talked about in school and other places, right? And the thing is that if we got off our screens, it might get us to kind of slow down and really take a look at things that we just walk by on a regular basis. And maybe we would even get outside more and get out in nature more. I bet all of you get outside on a regular basis.
I go for a light bike.
You go for a bike ride? Excellent. How many people go for a bike ride? Very good. I go for bike rides sometimes too. Thank you.
Yeah.
Me too. Did you notice that we have a visitor this morning? We have a guest right here. This is my friend, the tree. This is a tree. It's an actual tree that my friend Barbara dug up out of her woods behind her house for me. Now, Barbara, she's a landscape designer, and she actually knows a lot of things about trees. And she told me that when she digs up a tree, she was moving this tree anyway. She didn't just dig it up so we could have it here today. And when she digs up a tree, she first asks the tree's permission. She talks to the tree and asks them, is it all right if I do this? And then when she plants a tree, she always says a blessing for the tree, just to make sure that that tree knows that she's really, really thinking and caring about it. I learned this morning from Sue Kalt. Sue, where are you? Wave your hand. Oh, she's in the choir. From Sue in the choir. That this is an eastern white pine tree. And she told me that the way you can tell is that the needles are bunched in groups of 5 that spell out W-H-I-T-E, white. And that's how you know it's a white pine tree. Isn't that cool? So I'm going to invite you to come over. Let's come over and let's look closely at this tree. And if you touch it, you can touch it very, very gently. But let's get all around it, Ellen. Let's get all around it. We'll surround it. Let's stand around it. We can touch it very, very gently. You can see if you... What's happening with my mic? You can see if you can see those little clumps of 5. Yeah, very, very gently. Feel how soft those needles are, right? Aren't they soft? And let everybody, come closer. Let everybody get in here. Come on in. Come on in. And you can see that the roots, well, you may not be able to see them, but the roots are there. They're down in there in the dirt. So did anyone ever have to cut down a tree in their yard or be around? You did, yeah, you did that. Some people did, yeah. At my house once, well, this was a lot of years ago, we had a beautiful apple tree in our backyard. It was very close to the house, and we were building an addition on our house. We felt very sad, but that apple tree had to be taken down. There was no way to, it was big, there was no way to move it. And so we had to take it down. They had to cut it down, yeah. That's right, they had, not this tree, but the tree in my backyard, the big apple tree. And so we stood around the tree. What's going on with my mic, Keith? We sang, you know what, I'm going to use the hand mic. Thank you so much. All right. We sang the Johnny Appleseed song. I don't know if you know that song, but we sang that song. Some people do. And we blessed the tree, and we thanked it for all the years that it had provided shade. And I don't think we ever got any apples from it, but it had beautiful flowers, and we thanked it. And so that's a nice thing that you could ever do if you ever had to take a tree down. So it turns out, I learned that in the Jewish tradition, there is a prayer for pretty much everything. And that on February 9th, which was just a little while ago, was a Jewish celebration called, and I'm probably going to mispronounce it, where's Ben Gurion? He'll correct me later. Tu B'Shavat, which is the new year of the trees. So they actually have an occasion, a holiday, celebration for the trees. And it's known as the Jewish Arbor Day. So let's move back over where we were sitting before. Everybody can get a little more comfortable again. All right, thank you. So on this Arbor Day, it's a day to plant trees in celebration, and it turns out that over 1 million people in Israel plant trees on that day, on February 9th. That's a lot of trees that they plant every year. And that's something that, as the weather gets warmer, that we could, February 9th already happened, yeah. This is March 1st today, yeah. February 9th happened a little while ago. This is great because people are really keeping me on my toes. I want to be sure I know. And so, so this is a thing that we could do. We could plant trees, and when the weather gets warmer, that's something that maybe you could do with your family. You could find a little tree, and you could plant that someplace so that we can make our world an even greener place with a lot more trees, because they are really good friends. They help us out a lot. And we want to be sure that there are always plenty of them around. And as we plant those trees, we can make our own prayers and blessings. You can make up your own prayer and blessing as you plant that tree. So that, and you have a garden. Tell me your name.
Francisco.
Francisco has a garden, he tells me. How many people here have a garden? Excellent. How many people here have a tree that they really like? Whether it's lots of people do. A tree that's really special to you. So maybe when you next see that tree, you could say a little silent blessing for that tree and thank that tree for being in your life. And now we are going to sing our children out to their classes. We'll begin with a meditation today. We're going to take a guided imagery walk through the forest. I'm going to ask you to settle yourself comfortably, and we'll begin. Begin by closing your eyes if you like, and imagine that you are standing at the edge of a field. You see a tree line where a forest begins only a few yards away. Just on the other side of the tree line, you see a trail. So you walk out of the field towards the path and enter into the woods. The light in the forest cascades down through the leaves in a soft spray of light. The layers of the forest have various textures. The lower undergrowth is soft and green. There are ferns, moss, and small growths reaching toward the light. The upper canopy of the trees covers you like a stained glass roof overhead. The light green leaves against the light blue and white sky create a soft, glowing, ambient light. The light is gentle and soothing. The path you are walking upon winds down a slight hill and curves. It's well trodden, and you continue to follow it. The path is a combination of soil, roots, and small plants, and it's easy to walk upon. Once you round the corner, you see a stream. You continue toward it, admiring the large trees and the different types of bark on each tree trunk. Some trees have rough bark. Some trees have smooth bark. Some have light bark, and others dark. As you near the stream, you can hear the rippling water sounds getting louder in a constant rhythm. You see the rocks just under the surface of the water. The water swirls around some and pours over others. You decide to sit upon a large tree that has fallen over, and you slip your shoes off, dip your bare feet in the stream. The water is very cold, but it instantly soothes your feet. As you adjust to the cold, you notice that the water is swirling around and over your feet. As the water massages your feet, you can hear birds chirping. There are several different birds sounding. You can also hear the breeze fluttering through the leaves on the trees. You close your eyes and enjoy the sounds. After you rest for a while, enjoying your surroundings, you decide that you are ready to leave. You grab your shoes, put each one on, and step to the dry bank of the stream. You see the path that brought you here and start back up the hill and around the bend. As you walk back, many of the trees seem familiar. You may be reminded of a favorite tree in your life, in childhood or now. Take a moment to send a blessing to that tree. Now you're returning. You see the bright entrance to your path up ahead. As you approach the entrance, you stop and linger. You turn around and look down the path, taking note of what you're seeing and hearing. You can visit this special place anytime you'd like in your mind. Finally, you exit the forest and find yourself in a bright field. You open your eyes and return to your awareness. Spirit of life and love, Spirit of all names and no name, we are filled with gratitude for all of the gifts of the natural world. Today, we honor and recognize our kinship with them, and we commit to pay greater attention to our stewardship of their lives. Breathing in, we appreciate the beauty of our tree, plant, and animal family members. Breathing out, we rededicate ourselves to their preservation. May all living things have peace. May all lives be honored and respected. All this we ask in harmony with the divine that lives and breathes in us all, human, animal, insect, sea creatures, plants, and trees. May all be well. May all have peace. Amen, and blessed be.
Our first reading today is The Weight of Nothing, verse 2, by Amy Umatasu. The student's assignment, concentrating on nothing for 15 minutes a day. She tries to empty her head, but can't figure out how. After all, she doesn't know what nothing sounds or looks like. And the teacher won't give her the slightest clue. Yet she's got a good hunch the exercise might quiet all that shriek and clatter trapped between her ears. So like a good pupil, she devotes an entire year searching for nothing. Some days she is as still as a stone, but can't escape the distractions of river and wind, footsteps approaching, birds calling in the trees, or closing her eyes, she'll focus on a cloudless blue sky. Pillows and plains and purple sunsets keep interrupting. She silently repeats words like ocean or why. Chant sounds like that dwell low in her throat, like ma and At year's end, her teacher asks if she found nothing. She tells him she found everything but nothing. He smiles. You're closer than you think. Now try for 20 minutes. The offering will now be gratefully received. If you're visiting First Parish for the first time today, please feel free to let the basket pass you by. We're so glad you're with us.
That was just beautiful, choir. Thank you so much. It's one of my favorite pieces. Dear friends, for all that you have so generously given and all that we have received, we say thank you. This is a reading from the book The Overstory by Richard Powers. A forest knows things. They wire themselves up from the underground. There are brains down there, ones our own brains aren't wired to see. Root plasticity, solving problems and making decisions. Fungal synapses. Link enough trees together and a forest becomes aware. Trees learn to save water. Trees feed their young and synchronize their masts and bank resources and warn kin and send out signals to wasps to come and save them from insect attacks. Trees are doing science. Running 1 billion field tests. They make their conjectures, and the world tells them what works. The environment is alive, a fluid, changing web of purposeful lives dependent on each other. Flowers shape bees as much as bees shape flowers. Berries may compete to be eaten more than animals compete for the berries. A thorn acacia makes sugary protein treats to feed and enslave the ants who guard it. Fruit-bearing plants trick us into distributing their seeds, and ripening fruit led to color vision. We have shaped and been shaped by forests for longer than we have been Homo sapiens. Men and trees are closer cousins than you think. We're two things hatched from the same seed, heading off in opposite directions, using each other in a shared place, a place that needs all its parts. And now please rise as you are willing or able and sing our hymn of preparation, number 352, Find a Stillness. Last week, if you were here, you know that we talked about the hidden life of trees and about the earth defenders, many of them indigenous people, whose lives were taken because they stood up for forests, waters, and wildlife in their homelands. Our service was blessed by two bands, one a group from Ecuador and the other with music and leader from Mozambique. It was quite a morning. And my sermon, which was intended as part one to this week's part two, was a bit cut short. For those of you who are interested, the full text of that sermon has now been posted on our website, though today's message doesn't depend on you having heard that sermon. I have spent the last few weeks immersed in trees and nature, reading several books, including How to Do Nothing, Resisting the Attention Economy by Jenny Odell, which she calls less a lecture than an invitation to take a walk. I've always loved trees, but truthfully, I have hardly known the names of any. I know that there are evergreens, pines like our friend here, and spruce and such, and deciduous trees, ones that with leaves that fall like oaks and maples. Reading The Hidden Life of Trees and Odell's book woke me up to my gap in education. I realized I couldn't even identify the tree that is the closest companion to our house in Lexington, where I have lived for over 38 years. The tree, I had guessed it was a spruce, towers about 80 feet off the corner of our deck, dropping cones and pine needles and sap, and is a favorite of squirrels and birds, but that's where my knowledge ended. So, hold on. I forgot my prop. I bought this book, Peterson's Guide to Eastern Trees, and I set about identifying my tree. I examined the bark, the needles of a small branch that had fallen on my deck, and a cone, and aha, it's a Norway spruce. The most telling mark were that its branches droop downward. I felt proud and respectful of this giant in my backyard. It did take some time and attention. It's a pretty thick book, and you have to really take your time going through. But it also made me feel closer to my tree, and that is what we'll be talking about today. I was doing nothing in the sense of accomplishing something, and yet it got me closer to everything that matters. Jenny Odell talks about Oakland, California's grandfather or old survivor tree, the only old-growth redwood left standing in that city, a miraculous 500-year-old relic from the time before all the ancient redwoods. Those old-growth redwoods of the San Francisco Bay Area included the navigation trees, redwoods so tall that sailors used them to steer by. Odell calls Old Survivor another kind of navigation aid, one that holds lessons for us today. Old Survivor sits on a rocky slope, which kept it from being logged. It appeared useless as a timber tree. For Odell, that called to mind a story told by the 4th century Chinese philosopher Zhang Zhu of a carpenter who sees a tree of impressive size and age, but whose gnarled branches make it useless. The tree appears in his dream, saying, "Are you comparing me with all those useful trees? Fruit and timber trees are regularly ravaged. Uselessness was this tree's great strategy." "This has been of great use to me," said the tree. "If I had been of some use, would I ever have grown this large?" The tree draws a distinction between usefulness and worth, saying, "What's the point of things condemning things? You are a worthless man, about to die." How do you know I am a worthless tree? Like old Survivor, the tree outlasted generations of humans who did not see it as useful and so allowed it to live. This, says Odell, is lesson 1, resistance in place. It may look like doing nothing, but it is not nothing. It's a kind of dropping out, like the dropping out of the 1960s, a movement toward things and people that are all around us, and a movement downward into place. The ultimate goal of this doing nothing is to pull our focus away from the attention economy, the TV and computer screens, the ever-present news cycle and social media, which are constantly vying for our attention, and for us to move back to the public physical realm. The thing is that doing nothing is hard. Any of us who have tried to sit in meditation, simply paying attention to our breath and letting thoughts pass through without focusing on them, understands this. Zen teachers say, if something is boring for 2 minutes, try it for 4. If it's still boring, try it for 8, then 16, then 32. Eventually, they say, one discovers that it is not boring at all. Doing nothing is actually the hardest thing to do. Like the student in Amy Uematsu's poem, we try to concentrate on nothing, but as she discovers, even little gaps of solitude and moments of silence offer us much-needed breaks. And sometimes saying or doing nothing offers us the chance to frame or plan something worth saying or doing. There's a famous 1952 John Cage composition, 433, his silent piece. In this work, no intentional sounds are made for 3 movements, totaling 4 minutes, 33 seconds. A lot has been written about 433 and about Cage's ideas behind its silence. One reviewer concluded that 433 was simply an extension of Cage's use of chance operations of sounds and silence, with silences comprising the entire extent of materials in this piece. One of the most prevailing ideas is that silence doesn't exist. One should simply listen and open one's ears. Naturally, when the piece is performed before an audience, there is plenty of ambient sound, as we can hear in the sanctuary today. Coughs, sighs, shifts in seats, wonderful baby sounds, as in any performance space, which become part of this composition. One audience member reported on leaving the hall, every sound outside seemed more intense and remarkable. In this case, doing nothing sharpens the ability to listen, to hold yourself still so that you can perceive what's actually there. We're so used to being inundated with experiences of all kinds that Odell talks about reimagining FOMO, the fear of missing out, as NOMO, the necessity of sometimes missing out. In 1973, artist Eleanor Coppola created a project called Windows, February 16 to March 17, which consisted of a dated map with details of locations in San Francisco. The description stated, Coppola has designated a number of windows in San Francisco as visual landmarks. Her purpose is to bring the attention of the whole community to art that exists in its own context, where it is found, without being altered or removed to a gallery. The idea was that people used the map to visit these windows all over the city and the views that they framed, which was the art. Of course, this was just a moment in time, which could not be captured for long, as those windows changed, sometimes rapidly. The windows were also photographed and shown as a slideshow. One reviewer said, the slides are shown at tantalizing speed. You can't quite get enough information to satisfy interest in any particular window. It's almost like catching a fleeting glimpse in passing traffic. After a while, the show begins to feel like a warning. You may never see that view again, never return to that same spot. It may be lost in the tide of change. As a matter of fact, some of those windows were already gone by the time of that exhibition, the buildings demolished since Eleanor Coppola took the pictures. This was a project made of nothing, drawing the viewer's attention and inviting a response. Like Cage's 433, it was an invitation for the audience to make what they would from the experience with the same immediacy as a sunset, a forest walk, or the observation of an anthill. This is how we do nothing, how we disengage from the attention economy by re-engaging with something else, something immediate, the way I had the children just come and stand around and observe and touch a little tree this morning. I remember being in a particular workplace for a year, a nonprofit housed in an old factory building in Roxbury. A long windowless corridor led from the parking lot to the upstairs offices. And as you turned a corner, someone had placed a small table holding a starkly simple, unusual arrangement of a few flower stems, what I thought of as Ikebana style, the Japanese art of flower arranging. They changed weekly and were so unique and arresting that several times I stopped and took a picture. It wasn't till near the time I left that I met the landlord's wife, who admitted to being the floral artist. I clearly remember her saying, "I love doing these. It's nothing." What she meant was, it's such a small thing. It doesn't have much value because I enjoy doing it. But it made a huge difference to those of us who worked in that otherwise stark building. It had worth, and it was definitely not nothing. Learning about the trees in my own yard has begun a journey of attention for me, a journey of tree identification, which I can observe over the seasons, learning about the relationships of trees, fungi, birds, insects, squirrels, and other life who depend on each other. Robin Kimmerer in Braiding Sweetgrass says, "I'm trying to imagine what it would be like going through life not knowing the names of the plants and animals around you. I think it would be a little scary and disorienting, like being lost in a foreign city where you can't read the street signs. I want to be able to read the street signs, at least the ones in my own surroundings. I no longer want to feel lost in a foreign city when I'm in nature." Lesson 2 from Old Survivor: trees are a witness to history, a reminder to make our choices wisely. The present grows out of the past. We need rootedness. I often think some of the happiest, most fulfilling moments of our lives are when we are completely aware of being alive. It reminds me of being in labor and childbirth, of pulling together as a neighborhood in a big storm or a power outage, or even of days preparing for the memorial service of a loved one, with all the hope, pain, and sorrow that means for any mortal being. There is just something about knowing that we're in exactly the right place at the right time, doing precisely what we're supposed to do. In a time of climate denial, simply noticing what is around us is a political act. And in a time of increasing climate-related events, those who help you will likely not be your Twitter followers. They will be your neighbors. Social media offers us a steady stream of content with a lack of context. Many things may seem important, but the sum total, says Odell, is nonsense. And this can lead to waves of hating, shaming, vindictive public opinion that roll unchecked through platforms like Facebook and Twitter, with no time to contextualize. A 2011 study, she says, found that Twitter users who had built the most successful personal brands did so by recognizing the fact that they no longer knew who their audience was. They were simply throwing a message into the void. What if instead we spent our energy on saying the right things to the right people at the right time? less shouting into the void and more time talking in rooms. We could be reinforcing our attention and our communication with the intention that both deserve. It's true that sometimes social media can get us to show up and have conversations, and that's a good thing. The original shared computer, a sort of archaic Facebook of the 70s, was called Community Memory. You can still try it out at a museum in San Francisco. It was imagined as a super bulletin board where people could post notices of all sorts and find the notices of others. You used a teletype machine and a kiosk to create messages, and it ended up being a snapshot of that whole community. Craigslist is probably the purest form that we have of that right now. No advertising, no steady stream of information, just person-to-person messaging. Personally, I have taken some small steps. Moving the Facebook app off the front screen of my phone, not keeping it open on my laptop. In the social media groups where I do sometimes participate, I choose what to say and what not to say, whether and when to share. I also choose carefully what I listen to, especially when I'm in the car or at the end of a long workday. Often what I prefer to listen to is nothing, at least nothing that anyone else can hear. Jenny Odell reminded me how we used to make a phone call on a landline. Remember that? You thought about who you would call, made sure you had their number written down, made the call, talked, and then hung up. If you forgot something, you repeated the whole process. I have to think that the deliberateness of that communication made for fewer explosions where a tossed-off remark is blown out of proportion, wreaking havoc in a matter of moments. And you certainly didn't have other people weighing in on your conversations, although some of us might be able to remember the party line. Anybody remember the party line? Oh, there's a few, okay. A sane social network, says Odell, includes in-person encounters, long walks with a friend, phone conversations, closed group chats, town halls, dinners, and gatherings and celebrations, similar to the ones that we just had this weekend. Organizing and meeting in person as we do right here. It's a way of saying, I am here fighting for this with you. If we can relearn how to care about each other, we will necessarily relearn how to care about place. I try to take a walk every day, to notice my feet on the ground, to walk with eyes and ears wide open to what I might hear or see. Public parks and conservation lands are useful links between space, resistance, and the attention economy, says Odell. In order to resist, she says, we'll need to join forces and form even more refuges like parks and libraries. Only then will we truly grasp that our fate is linked to someone else's. The truth is that we are all refugees, human and non-human, from this global climate crisis. Our emotional and physical survival are bound up with these strangers, not just now, but for life. We'll need to remember our commitment to each other and to the common good, which is actually an aimless aim, a goalless goal, like the useless tree, offering nothing but witness, shelter, and resilience. Odell ends her book by talking about watching pelicans, how their general design appears not to have changed for 30 million years. In the winter, they head south to build nests that also have remained largely unchanged. Odell asks, how can I express my gratitude for the unlikely spectacle of the pelican? Just watch. How can I express my gratitude for the tree outside my home, which has watched over me and my family for over 38 years? We've shaped and been shaped by forests for longer than we've been Homo sapiens, says Richard Powers. Men and trees are closer cousins than you think. We're two things hatched from the same seed, heading off in opposite directions, using each other in a shared place, a place that needs all its parts. So I think that paying attention may just be enough. Noticing my connection to this life outside my window that asks nothing more than to blow in the wind and grow in peace. It may not seem like much, but it is not nothing. And it brings me closer to everything. Amen, and blessed be. We are about to sing our closing hymn, which is Blue Boat Home, number 1064. And as we sing our hymn, I'm going to ask you to move out of your pews and form a circle around our sanctuary. We'll see if we have enough people to have a circle all the way around the end pews or around the middle pews, but we'll form a circle. And today we won't hold hands, but we'll touch elbows, put a hand on a shoulder, thinking about being guided by what the person next to you wants. Please rise as you are willing and able and join in singing Blue Boat Home.
Please join me in unison affirmation as Reverend Lisa extinguishes our chalice. We extinguish the flame and not the light of truth, the warmth of community or the fire of commitment. These we carry with us and offer as gifts unto the world.
And now, Steve and I will come and join you down here. Take a look around at all the beautiful faces in this circle. Feel your feet rooted like a tree to the ground. You are here. Noticing the faces of those in the circle, a circle of connection, of healing, of protection, of blessing, and of caring. And now, silently saying to each other with your eyes and your smile, I am here for you in this moment, in all the moments. I see you, and I know I am seen. Whatever the storm may come, whatever winds may blow, we are here for each other. Let us go forth into the world through a door of hope for the future, remembering these words by Martin Luther. Even if I knew that tomorrow the world would go to pieces, I would still plant my apple tree. So may it be with us. Beloved friends, go out into the world and be a blessing to all those you meet, and may you yourselves be blessed. Amen. And now we have a birthday. Keith's birthday today. Let's sing to him. Happy birthday to